Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Welcome to the news about ourselves. You know, we started this thing yesterday for Makeover Monday, and Kaustubha likes it. He's agreed. He'd give me the thumbs up. It is no good reason. There's no good reason to turn on your cell phone as soon as you wake up in the morning or to check it. There's no good reason to check out Instagram, to check out Facebook. There's no good reason. At least if we're on a spiritual path. It's such a valuable time in that precious morning hours, as soon as you wake up, that for centuries, sages, yogis, meditators, transcendentalists have left this time sacred to go inside. And there's a device created to make you go out there. So part of my Makeover Monday has been, there's no good reason to turn on my cell phone when I wake up in the morning. I have an alarm, and then I just put it down, and you know what? It was my Maya. It was really sucking me in, and it felt so good not to do it for the last 2 days. And it's over. Kaustubha, what do you think?
I did it this morning as well. Very productive.
No good reason. There's no damn good reason.
Keep the morning sacred, right? Because the problem with that is
Maybe
that
that's the hashtag. Maybe that's the hashtag.
Keep the morning sacred?
Keep the morning sacred.
It's a little better than no good reason.
Yeah, no good reason. Yeah. Keep the morning sacred.
At least there's more to it. Yeah, but the thing is, because once you check that, there's the temptation to go further and further and further, deeper into it.
It's a web. That's why they call it a web.
That's why they call it a web. That's right. You get caught in that web.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the World Wide Web, and we're stuck in this thing.
We're like
Mara's looking down. I'm wondering if she's thinking, "Oh no, they're going to ask me to do it too." Right? She's looking down. We're talking about this whole great thing.
I was writing.
Oh, you're writing it down. Okay. See?
Yeah. She's just writing it down. Keep the morning sacred. No good reason.
Yeah.
There's no good reason to see who liked your things. We're so desperate for validation in the material world. Isn't it sad? We're so damn desperate for validation. Who liked me? No one liked me. Oh, they liked me. And there's never enough. There's never enough validation in the material world, because our validation comes from God. You can have the whole world validating you, and you'll still feel empty. That cup will never be fulfilled. It's one of the mysteries of life. It's actually one of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. There's no amount of fame that can fulfill the heart. You know what's funny, Kaustubha?
What?
You know what's funny is whenever in the 60s or when Prabhupada first came here, they took that translation of the Bengali of Lord Chaitanya, which was, there's no amount of fame or follower. No.
Najanam nasundarim.
Yeah, there's no amount of followers.
Yeah.
Now followers means something like on Instagram or Facebook.
Right.
There's no amount of, the idea was there's not enough
Prestige.
validation or prestige out there that will fulfill you and make you whole. The validation comes from God.
There you go.
So, but the translation of followers is so relevant today because people want followers. I need to get my numbers up. It's sick. Great place in the Bhagavatam.
Great place in the Bhagavatam.
Okay, do we have any announcements, Mara, or we're good?
I think we're good. Bobby Marchand is teaching asana class at 10 a.m. If you can't make it to the live class, it'll be recorded, so you can catch it later.
We have a last call for our teacher training that I'm doing with Bobby Marchand and then Kaustubha, which is happening in like 2 weeks here at Super Soul Farm. If you're interested, go to supersoulyoga.com and look at our teacher training, or you can write us here at the show. But we love Bobby Marchand. She's like an empowered teacher. Okay, great. So if you're interested in joining any of our our classes online. We've created this whole online yoga resource where you can study not just asanas, but we got workshops and cooking classes and Ayurvedic wisdom. It's quite cool. And I'm really impressed that everyone's taking advantage of it. If you'd like to go there and take advantage of it, the entry fee is whatever you want to give. But, give what you think it's worth. Give what you think it's worth to you. And that helps us keep our boat floating. And that helps us do what we do. And we actually this is really growing into something wonderful for us. So we want to thank you for your support. And you can get there by going to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. And thanks for everybody who's making it happen for us. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are Arjuna. We are in Canto 1, Chapter 15, text 22 and 23 are read together. Mm-hmm. And it's quite devastating. Arjuna is about to confess about the Yadu dynasty is destroyed and Krishna left the planet, which is a very heartbreaking thing to hear. But there's all a divine plan going on.
That's right. Want to do your invocational mantras?
Here are the magical mantras. Narayanam namaskritya naram shaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnanatmarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Yeah, you get it all here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You get, right? It's fulfilled. The beauty of bhakti is it's fulfilling to the senses. You're not cutting off your relationship with the senses. It's fulfilling to you don't endeavor for it, but it immediately helps you escape the pain of material existence, although that's not the goal. And it also gives you great fulfillment of the heart and connection. You get it all. It's like you get the bundle. You're getting the whole bundle. You've downloaded, you've unlocked the bundle.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we go. This is 22. O King, since you have asked me about your friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you. This is Arjuna talking to his brother, who is the king.
This is some heavy stuff to hear right now.
Yeah. Good morning. This is really, get ready. This is not it's not like a happy morning here in the Bhagavatam. O King, since you have asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmins.
Uh-oh. That's never good.
That's never good. It's just like, hey, how's your family doing? Oh, my family? They were all cursed by the Brahmins.
And as whatever comes next is not going to be good.
And as a result, they all became intoxicated with wine made of putrefied rice. I guess that's sake.
Something like that.
Isn't that how they make wine out of rice? Sake.
I believe so.
And they fought amongst themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now, all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone. Well, good morning to you, Kaustubha.
Good morning.
That's not a feel-good verse. That is a downer.
Well, if you want to get through it, you got to read the next verse.
Okay. All right, so this is what happened. He said, how's your family doing? He said, well, they're all dead. They were cursed. They became drunk on wine, rice wine, and they beat each other with sticks. Okay, here's the next verse. Factually, this is all due to the supreme will of the Lord, the personality of Godhead. Sometimes people kill one another, and at other times, they protect one another.
All right. I think you want to tell the story of what happened here, Raghunath?
Story's quite interesting.
Comes in the 11th canto. No, 12th canto.
11th canto.
11th canto, yeah.
The 11th canto, Krishna has got to figure out a way to wind up his pastimes because he's had all these pastimes on Earth. And it comes about in a very interesting way where and as fantastic as the story is, there's lessons in these fantastic disappearances as well. So the children of the Yadu dynasty. The Yadu dynasty is Krishna's family. And they dressed...
I think when we say children, I think they're kind of like adolescents at this point, right?
Yeah, when kids are playing little teenager jokes. So they dressed Samba, which was one of Krishna's sons, up in a sari. And they put an iron club under his sari. And they walked...
No. I don't know if it was an iron at that point. I think that may have come with the curse, but they made him look pregnant.
They made him look pregnant with no, they put an iron ball under his belly.
I'm not sure if that's right, because the curse is that you will give birth to an iron ball.
I know.
Okay.
All right, if you...
What would it make, if you just shut up and let me tell the story, is what you're about to say.
It's all right.
In any case, maybe
I've interpreted it wrong all these years. I thought they put a club under his belly and they wrapped him up, so they put him in front of the great sages. Because it's common in India, you go to these holy people and you say, hey, this is my wife and she's pregnant. Give us your blessings. So they brought this little boy with a fake belly. And
I think in the beginning it was just a fake belly. Then the curse was the iron thing.
Okay, well, that's we're gonna me and Kaustubha are gonna arm wrestle over this.
Well, we could just look it up.
Well, I have the 11th canto here. Let's see.
Okay. It might slow you down if you do it. It's unimportant. I shouldn't have even interrupted, but
it's okay.
But it was the curse, because once he says you're going to give birth to, and then they look, and then there's the iron ball. It's like, oh my God, the curse is real. It's like,
well, they said, well, am I gonna have a boy or a girl? And they said, boy or girl? You trying to fool us? We're the sages. How dare you? And they're sort of like mocking the sages. It was irreverent the way that they were dealing with them. It was disrespectful. Yeah, and they were
they're laughing and they're giddy and then saying, "Oh, sage." And
it was Vishwamitra, and I think they've got these guys sages. They were mocking the sages, and the sages cursed them. And the sages said, "Yeah, you want to know what gender your child is going to be? You're going to give birth to an iron club, and that iron club is going to be the destruction of your family." And they were like, "Uh-oh, we thought we punked them. They just punked us. They punked us." So what happened was they went to the king, Ugrasen, and they said, "We don't know what to do now." He said, "Well, you better take this iron club and you grind it to powder." And so they grounded it to powder, and there was one little nub left. And they threw that, and they threw everything in the ocean, in the sea, because Dwarka is right on the sea, the Arabian Sea. And a fish ate that big iron piece. And they say wherever the dust of the club fell, it grew into bamboo canes. Mm-hmm. And that fish was caught by a fisherman. And when the fisherman opened up, he was also a hunter, and he found that piece of metal, and he used it, and he fixed it and used it as a arrow for his bow. And that bow was the one that shot, he thought it was a deer. He shot Krishna in the Achilles. And that's how Krishna left the planet. He got shot in the Achilles, just like Achilles.
Achilles or in the foot?
In the Achilles.
Are you sure? We're just adding these details.
No, I look up these things.
Okay.
Krishna got shot in the ankle. That's how he left.
Okay.
And then...
what about these reeds?
I think that's where the Greeks got the whole thing of Achilles from.
All right.
Devakinandan says foot also. Man, all right. Everybody's coming. Aravind says foot. Here they come. Here they come. Arvind. No iron ball, just a pregnant thing. Aravind. Okay, everybody's attacking me today. You tell the story.
No, please go on. These are just small details. Please continue.
And the idea is that, and then they got intoxicated from this rice wine.
Yeah, they all went out for like a picnic or something, right?
Yeah, they just started bickering, and this was when Kali Yuga started to kick in, because this arguing and this fighting amongst family members, and it just became nasty and nasty until they destroyed themselves. And now they're saying only a few people had remained.
Yeah. So it's, what it's saying is that Krishna, he came to relieve the world of this burden of kings. And then he took not one that was done after the Battle of Kurukshetra, he also took his own family back with him. Now, it appears to us, oh my God, what an ugly way. But somehow, in the divine will, it was just a way of kind of ending it all quick,
Yeah.
And but there's lessons in it, and there's one real this lesson is made so clear through this that in one sense, it couldn't have been made more clear without it being done in this particular way. And that is that the inauspiciousness that comes when we offend great souls, right? That it leads to destruction. It leads to destruction of our own piety, of our own clarity. But here, it led to the destruction of a family, and not just any family, but Krishna's own family, right? That's the Yadu dynasty. That it's saying that that we should all, when we should ponder this and consider this, that no one is beyond this, that everyone need to take care in how we respect one another, especially how we respect great souls, people that have gone deep into their spiritual life and that are the well-wishers of all and that are wise and so on, that we should honor those people. We should really, something very lost in our culture, but really honoring and respecting people that are wise, how important that is. And if one neglects that, then it leads to serious negativity. Here, in this case, Krishna's own family, not only lost it, they lost it in a really crazy way. So I think that's part, someone say, well, why this bizarre way to wrap it up? And to me, that's part of, at least that's one important thing, is it shows that even Krishna's own family, wasn't what's the word I'm looking for? Immune or whatever to this. Yeah.
It's one of these things, and I think it's safe to say, me and Kaustubha have seen it happen, that even people practicing bhakti for a long time, that desire to want to one up other people, other devotees, it's an ugly quality that we've probably cultivated for lifetimes. I'm rightness, I'm right, and the whole world is wrong. And when we take that very nasty material quality and bring it within spiritual circles, we create havoc, even on our, quote, long-standing spiritual life. You've been practicing for 5 years or 10 years or 40 years. You have to let that go. You have to treat people practicing, especially people who are dedicating their life to spiritual life. You have to teach it like you're almost like, what are those little kids, they play that game and they put an egg on a spoon in their mouth. It's like a little American game you play at a birthday party. You put an egg on a spoon and you got to run with this egg on a spoon in your mouth.
You look excited about it.
I know, it's fun. Really enjoy this. It's a great birthday party. And so you run, and it's very delicate. You can't just run. You got to walk very slowly. We have to treat each other with just be so delicate, because if we're just so brash and I know this and what do you know, and we're fighting over some details, again and again we see in the Bhagavatam, the most evolved people sometimes, right, like the wives of the Brahmins, they were the most evolved, but they were illiterate, right? Or you see Shabari, she from the Ramayana, she was sort of for outcast,
simple forest dweller,
and she was the highest. It's not necessarily how much we know. It is the quality of the heart that means everything. And so arrogance is always trying to slip in. And I think it's safe to say we know people who are very, very sharp, but incredibly rude and arrogant. It's defeats all your good qualities, that type of arrogance.
Yeah. So even Krishna's own sons, when they showed that kind of arrogance or disregard for these great souls.
Yeah.
It led to destruction. So perhaps that's the main reason why it there's something illustrated through it like that. I don't know.
I remember when I would, when I was really into learning shlokas and memorizing shlokas as a monk.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the teacher would be giving a class on the Bhagavatam, and they'd quote the shloka, but they'd get the third and fourth line wrong. And in my brain, I'm always be like, yeah, that's wrong. Or I'd raise my hand. Hey, that's wrong. You quoted the wrong verse. It's that type of like arrogance that just wants to get recognition. And it's like constantly correcting to prove your rightness. Ugly quality, Kaustubha. It's not ugly.
The shame in it is that somehow we're programmed to think we're going to find happiness through it. Right? When everybody recognized that I knew this and that person didn't know, but I knew.
But I knew.
And when everybody recognized that, it's going to feel so good.
Tell the story about the scissors.
The
drowning man.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's about like never being able to admit you're wrong, right?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I mean, people get divorced because they'd just rather be right than to have a loving marriage.
So what's the story of the scissors?
I can't remember.
The two people
I asked you to tell the story.
Two people were having an argument, and one was, and it was like, "What's the best way to cut something?" One was saying, "A knife. We need a knife for this job," And I was saying, "No, scissors is the best way to go." And the person's like, "No, knife. A knife just makes so much more sense in this case." And the person's like, "Are you kidding me? Knife? That won't do it right at all. You need scissors for this. Knife, scissors, knife, scissors." And then finally, the knife guy says, if you say scissors one more time, I'm going to throw you into the lake, and apparently the guy can't swim, And he goes, "It's just, scissors, it's scissors." And the guy throws him into the lake. Right. So now just like his own, like their own, just like stubbornness to be right has led to his being drowned
and murdered.
But even as he's going down, he's like holding up scissors as he's going down into the water.
So one guy murdered one guy. One guy died, but they're still stubborn and they still got their heels dug in deep over something that's so, especially in bhakti circles, people fight online over things that you will never know anyway. You will never know these little details, and they argue over different. It's so sad. Yeah. It's so sad. It's like the destruction. It's the destruction of the Yadu dynasty.
It's like, there's nothing wrong with being right and trying to help people understand when something's right, but it gets so mixed in with our ego, the need to be validated for being right or smarter or whatever. Yeah. And there is no happiness. The yogi's like analyzing it. Oh, there's actually no happiness in that. Okay, now everybody saw that it was right, and what did it lead to? So there's a way to move through the world kind of like more gently. Maybe I don't even need to show that I'm right. Maybe it doesn't matter that he quoted the wrong thing here. Maybe it's when there's a need, let me share what needs to be shared, and let me do it in a way that is sensitive.
Maybe it doesn't matter that Raghunath said he got shot in the Achilles.
That's what I was thinking.
Matter, guys. That's where we're going with this whole thing.
That's why you brought it up, right? Sometimes these things do need to be clarified, though, Raghunath. But my point to that was because when they saw the iron ball, they were shocked. I believe, right? That's you're like, yeah, you just need to be right. Just admit it. I'm like, not iron ball. You're like, iron ball.
I'm drowning. I'm making
iron ball.
A ball mudra. Okay.
Yeah,
let's continue. All right.
Oh, this is some incredible stuff coming up here. Okay.
Come on.
25-26.
25-26. Ready?
Yeah.
O king, as in the ocean, the bigger and stronger aquatics swallow up the smaller and weaker ones, so also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to lighten the burden of the earth, has engaged the stronger Yadu to kill the weaker, and the bigger Yadu to kill the smaller.
Yeah, so Prabhupada's got a nice commentary here. Right? One paragraph.
Not feel-good verses, Kaustubha, this morning.
There's always something good to come out, though, right?
Let's churn something out of this. Okay. You want to read it?
All right. It So here's Srila Prabhupada's commentary. In the material world, the struggle for existence and survival of the fittest are laws, because in the material world, there is disparity between conditioned souls. Why? Why is there disparity? Why do some have more, some have less, some are, are weaker, some are stronger, some are... Why? Because, he says, because in the material world, there's disparity between conditioned souls due to everyone's desire to lord it over the material resources, okay? There's a limited amount of resources, and we're all trying to be the lord of those resources. This very mentality of lording it over the material nature is the root cause of conditioned life. I have a desire to manipulate the energy for my own enjoyment, right? Manipulate material energy that's the root cause of conditioned life. Due to that desire, we get conditioned, we get shaped by that material energy itself. And to give facility to such imitation lords, that's what we are in this world, right?
Secondhand gods.
He says, it's interesting if we look at this sense, he uses the word Lord 2 times, one with a lowercase L and one with a capital L. I looked up the word Lord this morning. You know what the definition for the word Lord is?
Is it another thing that like we take from the British? The Lord?
Well, it's an English word, but I mean, in their society they had lords and so on. But
yeah,
the Lord is someone or something having power, authority, or influence. Right.
Okay.
I find it really interesting when I read Srila Prabhupada. It's a fact that a lot of Srila Prabhupada's commentators, they use words in ways that are a little different than we use them now, because he was educated in a British school.
It was like a Victorian
century and a half ago.
Also, yeah.
Right. And so like when we hear the word Lord, we immediately, it brings out all kind of like religious connotations.
Lord of Lords.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but I think Prabhupada will use it in different, when he uses, like, let's look at the sense. He says, and to give facility to such imitation lords with the lowercase L.
Yeah.
The illusory energy of the Lord, higher case L, has created a disparity between conditioned living beings by creating the stronger and the weaker in every species of life. Okay. So it's saying that if we call Krishna the Lord, or Srila Prabhupada say like the Supreme Lord, right? That sounds like such a big religious term, but you could look at it not in a religious sense, but just in a practical sense, that there are lords, that in one sense, you are the Lord of your home, Raghunath, right? It's like you've got a certain power and authority and influence in that home. Yes?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who's more lordly, me or my wife?
Okay, well, you both are lords, right? And then there's always going to be another lord. Like there's going to be someone within your sphere that's got more authority, right? Like is there a mayor of your town?
Yeah, there's like whatever. They could be the IRS, the chief of police, or the sheriff.
And then there's going to be a governor, and then there's going to be a president, and there's lords on different levels. But if you keep going and going, there's always someone that's like lording it over still higher until you get to the Supreme Lord, right?
Yeah.
So it says here that, and to give facility, so we're all being imitation lords. And this is just a key difference between us and Krishna, is what these texts are saying is that there's a supreme being behind all this, that there's personality behind all, there's a person behind all of it. And that person is existing for enjoyment, and that person finds enjoyment through love. Okay. And so that person is, in one sense, enjoying their own energy. That original source is the source of all energy. So like Radha is the energy of Krishna, right? The gopis are the energy of Krishna, and also the jivas, we are the energy of Krishna. And by nature, the energy is meant to be enjoyed by the enjoyer, or the original Purusha, the original person, the original enjoyer. That's a formula, right? And that when we do operate in harmony with that, we enjoy, on the highest level ourselves. But what we do is we say, actually, I would like that position of being the original Purusha, the original enjoyer. And then if you want that, because that is not who you are by nature, we're going to need to create an artificial atmosphere for you to pretend. All right.
We call that.
So, and then you become so whereas Krishna enjoys his own energy, we have no ability to create our own energy and enjoy it. We try to enjoy his inner energy. And in this way, we become imitation lords. Right. So he says, and to give facility to such imitation lords, we need an imitation world. The illusory energy of the Lord has created a disparity between conditioned living beings by creating the stronger and the weaker in every species of life. Right? And that's the virtual reality that we're living in. The mentality of lording it over the material nature and the creation has naturally created a disparity, and therefore the law of struggle for existence. In the spiritual world, okay, which this is the imitation reflection world, where imitation lords are competing for the resources. It's a reflection of the spiritual realm right here. In the spiritual world, there's no such disparity, nor is there such a struggle for existence. In the spiritual world, there's no struggle for existence because everyone there exists eternally. There's no disparity because everyone wants to render service to the Supreme Lord. Everyone's watering the root. And no one wants to imitate the Lord and becoming the beneficiary and becoming the Lord. I don't want to become the Lord. I'm happy to serve the Lord, and I enjoy that naturally. Right? The Lord being the creator of everything, including the living beings. The Lord being the creator of everything, including the living beings, factually is the proprietor and the enjoyer of everything that be. It's all his energy. But in the material world, by the spell of Maya or illusion, this eternal relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is forgotten. Why is it forgotten? Because if we want to dive into the illusion, we have to forget. So he not only provides the virtual reality, but he provides forgetfulness so that we can embrace that virtual reality. And then he says, and so the living being is conditioned under the law of struggle for existence and survival of the fittest, right? Mm-hmm. So if we don't want to accept our natural position as a leaf to the tree, as a leaf relates to the root of the tree. There's one, root or tree, and then there's like thousands of leaves that are the servants of the tree and that are nourished and provided for by the tree. All right. But if the leaf says, I want to be the tree, well, then it can't be, right? But it'll need an illusory world where it can pretend to be. And that's what we're doing in this realm. But I thought it was interesting. Prabhupada repeatedly uses these terms, struggle for existence and survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
In this commentary, he used both those terms several times. And those are terms that are, they were kind of, they weren't exactly coined by Charles Darwin, but they were popularized or, they grew out of his work, right? Out of his writings. People interpret those, and people have interpreted those. Like Darwin's writings have had a tremendous effect on human society since then, right? Mm. They were written, in the mid 19th century, and growing out of them, it affects how we look at biology, how we look at politics, how we look at economics, how we look at sociology. Yeah. This concept that the strongest survives, right? But there's an interesting trend going on, like in all of these fields right now, in terms of, political science, in terms of economics, in terms of sociology, and recognized in biology, because that's how things work. You recognize something in nature, right? Like what a biologist learns through their observations can then be applied to like how an economist looks at how the economy works, or someone involved in sociology looks at how societies work. And what people are saying is, even if you look at Darwin's observations, what's recognized is he'll say like that it's survival of the fittest. But what does the fittest mean? It doesn't necessarily mean the strongest. But what people are recognizing, and this is something that's developed, books have been written and a lot of papers have been written like in the past decade, that the fittest is the one that cooperates the best, right? That species which can cooperate the best survives. It has less to do with one's individual strength and more to do with the development of qualities that are, let's say, well, qualities that from our tradition, we would say are connected to the nature of the soul, right? Like qualities like empathy and altruism and compassion, right? That these are natural to the soul. And that, and that the way that the world works, in other words, we would say theoretically, right, that there's a law of karma in this world. And what that law of karma is designed to do, we spoke a few weeks ago about how, in one sense, if we look at this world like a virtual reality, karma is like a program that you would buy, right? Some software that you would install into that virtual reality. Okay, you with me, Raghu?
I'm on it.
Okay, and so now we're living in this virtual world. We've downloaded karma, and now the way that it works is no matter what I do in this virtual world, there's a reaction to my action. And specifically the way that it's designed is if you take qualities like compassion and kindness and empathy and generosity, that karma is going to reward those. And if one behaves in the opposite way, cruel, callous, miserly, etc., then karma is going to punish that. It's going to make you feel a pinch, going to make you feel pain for that. And in this way, the virtual reality is designed to bring us to the mode of goodness, to bring us to a level of concern for others, for the concern for the well-being of others, because that is a natural platform from which we develop our spiritual life. And it's a natural platform that is consistent with the true nature of the soul, which is ultimately loving devotion, right? So we would, in spiritual texts that date back many, many, many centuries, they're going to say that therefore this world is designed for us to live that way. And it's going to become difficult and destructive if we live against that nature. And now what these people are saying, I'll read something, I pulled up a little something. This is from someone named Christopher Cook, I think, but it's spelled maybe Cook, K-U-K-K. He's written some books on this, and he wrote that, he wrote that, he says Darwin writes that as the human race evolved from small tribes, and this is Darwin's theory, as human race evolved from small tribes into large civilizations, concern about the well-being of others extended to include not just strangers, but all sentient beings. He even calls compassion the almost ever-present instinct, right? That compassion is like, it's something that we can't escape from. It's very core to our nature. When a fellow human witnesses the suffering of another. In other words, Darwin believed that compassion was a natural instinct that we all share. The bumper sticker way of teaching and labeling Darwin's ideas as exclusively focused on survival of the fittest is not only misleading, it completely misses his idea that humanity's success hinges on its level of compassion or sympathy. Right? And there's another person. This was a person. His name is Tobias Roberts. He works in permaculture, but he sees the same things there. And he says the evolutionary jump for humanity will mean that we'll have to question some of the most basic tenets of our economic, political, and social livelihoods. Greed will need to be replaced by willingness to share. Violence will need to be substituted for peaceful coexistence. And our human hubris will need to be transformed into a humble realization that our survival depends on adhering to the principles and ethics that sustain life itself. And again, those would be, kindness, empathy, altruism, etc. So we're finding, within fields of biology, within fields of political science, within fields of sociology, that people are recognizing that it's actually kindness and compassion and empathy and the concern of the well-being of another through which we thrive. And when we break those, we suffer. What do you think about that, Raghunath?
I think you're right on. The whole idea of survival of the fittest, the very idea that we have this compassion that it's almost like hardwired into us. It seems like people naturally want to extend their hand to someone in pain. Oh, you're gonna be in trouble. I almost like push you out of the way. Sometimes I'll get hit by that car myself. Or sometimes if we see a child crying, we want to extend ourselves. But it's also even in animal, and oftentimes people will say, oh, the animals, they're just acting on instinct. But animals are also feeling compassion for loved ones and for, so many stories of animals, like wild animals. Like there's like a story about someone drowning and in the ocean.
Elephant came for it or something.
A tortoise came and supported this young girl who was until she could get help. So it's like, it's not, but it even happens, I think, in the plant kingdom as well. I don't have any references. I wasn't prepared with.
You don't have any
plants saving plants or animals saving humans.
You don't have any videos that you've been watching on YouTube videos?
There are some videos where animals save other animals. There's one where someone is getting swept down a river and an animal comes to save the person's.
An elephant. I saw a baby elephant come running after someone.
Yeah, that's what it was, a baby elephant.
Yeah.
So the idea is that there is compassion hardwired into us as well as these desires to take, greed. And I think that the human mountain range that we have to climb is, can I let those qualities that we speak of in Vedic scriptures, but also in wisdom literature around the world, like a kindness, an empathy, a compassion, a soft heart, can I let those conquer that lower nature of taking and greeting and me first and the gimme gimmies and all that stuff that's also sort of within the beast? And can we overcome that lower nature? And that's sort of what I feel like is the hero's journey.
To overcome our lower nature.
Overcome those lower passions with to cultivate those good qualities. And it comes from the association with people who have already cultivated those, who are interested in raising the bar. Not like hanging out with those guys that Pinocchio hung out with.
They're so bad. The bad company.
The bad company.
If we turn to Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, text 13 through 15, just hear this out, right? Because this is, Krishna's framing this as, these are the people like this are very dear to me.
That's a great part of the Gita.
Yeah, but we can also understand this as like being like, this is the key that opens up to spiritual realization, to depth of meditation, to spiritual transformation, right? He says, one who is not envious, and here again, when Prabhupada uses the term envious, I think it especially means like hostile to others, right? One who is not envious, but is a kind friend, right? To all living entities, not just their family, not just their neighbors, not just their country, not just their species, but one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor. And that's a big part of what we just read in something else that I would like to read, because anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. One who does not think himself a proprietor and who is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, that even-mindedness, some of them is always coming up in the Bhagavad Gita, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. And then this next verse, this is something that I think about a lot. I try to embody. I think it's a lifetime's work to really embody this. He by whom no one is put into difficulty, right? And who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me, right? Imagine moving through this world very consciously not putting another person into difficulty, whether it's economically, politically, emotionally, right? That I want to move through this world with that kind of like gentle footstep. It's essential. We can talk about yoga off the mat. If we want to go deep into meditation and deep into spiritual transformation, this is the life that we have to be living. And again, so like, scientists and philosophers and so on are recognizing that if we want to survive as a species, this is, we have to become a little bit more like this, right?
That's a cool part of the Gita where it says how to become dear to Krishna.
Yeah.
And it describes how to become dear to Krishna. Like there is things you can do and things that you can do, things that you do that will make you more dear to Krishna, and things that will just sort of like almost like push divinity out of your life.
And I think another important part about that section of the Gita is it not only helps us understand what endears us to Krishna, but it helps us understand the heart of Krishna, right? Because if we have a hesitation to the conception of a personal God, a personal deity, well, I believe a lot of that hesitation develops out of the fear, of just like, who is that person? And these conceptions of, I mean, even if you read the Old Testament, it can come off like, it can come off that way. I'm not saying that it is that way, but it can come off as like, I'm the jealous God and this and that, and he's going to be giving these arbitrary, kind of things, to do. Whereas here's like, well, this is that deity is like, his concern is that we become very kind to one another, that we become very concerned with one another's welfare. It reveals the heart of Krishna, what makes one dear to him. But all of this, connects to a very important verse. Prabhupada's alluding to it in the commentary to the verses that we read. But a verse that is in the 5th chapter, it's the last verse of the 5th chapter, and Prabhupada had a name for that verse. You know what that hot seat for you, Raghunath?
The peace formula.
He called it the peace formula. Right?
Mara, learn this one.
Mara, this one's for you to learn. Okay, ready?
Okay.
It's kind of an easy verse to learn because
529.
529, because each line covers a different topic. Like and then the final line kind of wraps it up. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram. Krishna is the Bhoktaram, he's the yagya tapasam, he's the sarva loka maheshwaram. He's also the suridam sarva bhutanam. And then knowing all that, gyatva mam, knowing me as such, shantam richati, one attains peace, right? So Krishna says, Bhoktaram
yagya tapasam.
Yagya tapasam.
Sarvaloka.
Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, right? So Sarvaloka means like all of the planets, right? He's the Maheshwaram. He's the supreme controller. He's the supreme lord of all the planets. He's the Bhoktaram, Yagya tapasam. He's the beneficiary of all one's sacrifices or austerities, right? If we do sacrifice in life or austerities, it's meant for his pleasure. Right?
Why are we taking on any type of burden? Well, it's sometimes you think, well, it's for my health, it's for the greater good of my family, it's good for the good of my nation. Actually, it's ultimately supposed to be all offered to God. So even if you take care of your body is meant to be offered to divinity.
Right. So that's such an important point, right? Like self-care and all that. Self-care is great, but we do it
right
so that we can serve.
Self-care
right? So
can be totally selfish.
It can be totally selfish, yeah. So the first line, this is a peace formula. It's saying if you can understand this, you can actually find peace in this world, both individually as well as collectively. It starts with Krishna saying, Bhoktaram yagna tapasam, that all of your sacrifice and tapasya, your austerities in life, is meant to be offered to me. It's like, well, hold it. Who are you to step in here and pull out, make yourself the beneficiary of all this? And then the next line, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I'm the Lord of all planets, Well, it's like, okay, now, now I'm even getting more hesitant to kind of like buy into this, right? Now you got this big Lord of all planets, But then the next line, you have to understand it, Suridham Sarva Bhutanam. I'm the dear friend. I'm the well-wisher of who? Sarva Bhutanam, every living being. Every single living being. I'm nothing but wishing them well, Gyatva Mam, knowing me as like this, knowing this about me, Shantam Richati, one attains peace. So here's the translation. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs. There's your favorite word there, Raghunath, pangs. Attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Beautiful verse, you know, and it also, you know, goes into like, if you want to go to Ishopanishad, right, from the Upanishads, where the first mantra of the Ishopanishad, such an important text, right? Everything animate and inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord, right? That one should therefore accept only those things necessary for themselves, which are set aside as their quota. And one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if they continuously go on working in that way, for that sort of work will not bind one by the law of karma, right? So if we act compassionately, kindly, we take only our quota, right? Yoga is all, you know, it's the lifestyle of the yogi is all about kindness and simplicity. These two, right? You can sum them up. We move through this world with kindness. We move through this world simply satisfied. And that is the platform through which we can connect with mantra, connect with shastra, the sacred texts, you know, derive the blessings of great souls in this world, derive the benefits of, you know, visiting in holy places and being able to recall them in our memory and be transformed through them. You know, all of these like powerful, you know, kirtan, japa, you know, chanting of mantras and so on. All of these are very powerful sources, but we're weak to being transformed through them because we're so dull, because we're selfish, right? And because we're greedy. So kindness and simplicity become like the basis of the life of the yogi. And through kindness and simplicity, not only do we create a more beautiful world, but actually the world of spiritual transformation really opens it up to us through these. And so again and again, whether it's Bhagavad Gita, whether it's Srimad Bhagavatam, whether it's Upanishads, same message coming through. You know, same message is there.
Kaustubha.
Yes, Raghunath.
Do you know I wrote a song about this verse?
We've got 1 minute to hear it. Let's go. Which one? But the Bhakti-yogi Yoga Tapasama, the peace formula?
The peace formula. I wrote a verse.
Hit it.
And each verse has to do with one of those principles. It's called Sharanagati.
Oh, Sharanagati. Sharanagati.
Yeah. Listen to the words. It explains the whole verse. It's my purport.
All right, I want to hear it.
Okay. People in this world actually claim they possess land and sky and water, but they try to forget that everything that they build and everything that they've killed was handed to them by your free will. Secondhand gods, that's all we are. Not creating, manipulating, and leaving the scars. Robbing from the earth, stealing from the trees, not out of need, but greed and false prestige. But it's all yours. What can I own? Not family, property, it's all on loan. But our miserly minds of I, me, and mine fight in wars for what's not ours. So here's my plea for Sharanagati. So that was the first one, that you're the supreme
proprietor.
You're the supreme proprietor. We're fighting over what's not ours.
That was great. Next one.
The next one. I try to understand you're the supreme friend. You're beside me and you guide me like no one else can. Help me see you in everything and everything in you. When will I appreciate all that you do? Even pain in this world is to help us see the reality of material misery. Please help me transcend. I want it to end. Happiness apart from you, I can just pretend. And because you're so kind, you give me a mind to choose to love you or leave you behind. Forgetting reality, we create duality, and I'm sick of this fallacy. Sharanagati.
Awesome. Is that the whole thing, or is there more?
There's the third one.
You're not so happy with that one, the third?
No, it is. I just remember it.
Okay.
I'm trying to. You're the. Oh, here. This is the last one. So this is the one. You're the roots of creation. So that's Surita Sarvabhutam. You're the friend of all. Yes. This one, you're the roots of creation, and we're just a leaf. So this is the tapasam. This is how Krishna has to be offered to Krishna. Okay. You're the roots of creation, and we're just some leaves. By fulfilling your desire, we find our relief. Enjoyment apart from you creates more grief. These leaves become dry. We cry and drop with the breeze. I try to satisfy my senses. What have I gained? So-called pleasure is a cessation of pain. Fooled myself with love again and again, attracted by romance and smashed in the end. Surrounded by people and left all alone, and even amongst friends, I felt far from home. But we're one with each other, but you're different from me. Like a drop from the sea, if you want to be free, Sharanagati.
Raghunath, you should do a seminar just on that song. That was awesome. You are the bard of your generation.
You are kind,
that was coming from the young Raghunath, the young punk rock. Awesome, bravo.
Prabhu, you are awesome. Thanks, everybody. You're all awesome. Did you know that? If no one ever told you how awesome you were this morning, I'm here to say you are valid. You are wonderful. You are a divine being. And I'm here to remind you that, because sometimes we forget. You are a spiritual being encapsulated in this big body of yours, or small body of yours, but you're a pure spirit soul. Don't forget that. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on Apple Podcasts. And thanks, everybody, waking up early for joining us on Zoom. I really appreciate the people are just showing up regularly. And if for some reason you get out of it, because sometimes we miss our regulation, you know what? Just jump back in. That's okay to fall off the bandwagon. You just jump back in. This is like, it doesn't matter what side you eat that banana from. It's very sweet. You eat it from the top or the bottom. Thanks, everybody, joining us late on Zoom. I didn't get to say good morning to. Thanks to Kaustubha and Mara, who's here today. And thanks for everybody writing in comments, sending us mail. We really appreciate it. And you can write us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Send us some questions for Question Saturday. And thanks for all the support. Join our whole community with our chat board and our classes and workshops that we're offering, especially today with Bobby Marchand at 10 a.m. She's an incredible teacher. That's just joining our Patreon community. And it's patreon.com/wisdomofthesages. You give what you like, and if you're getting something out of it, and you feel like you're getting, then you give more. And if you feel like I just want to check this out, you give whatever it is to take.
You give what you can.
You give it 1 Bitcoin, whatever that is. What's a Bitcoin worth? What's the?
No idea.
No idea either. Okay. Let's clap our hands.